I got the tire in my car replaced.
Mm-hmm.
I helped my brother send out I helped out his business a little bit. We'll discuss when we get to graffiti. He'll actually be a good guest for the podcast when we get to that.
Yeah.
Just running out up magazine and whatnot. I went to the gym. I got up at 7 a.m. today.
Wow, Sean. Why would you do that?
This because my parents doing construction on the house, and the guy just started hammering at 7 a.m. But I got up, damn it. I could have just rolled over and fucking shouted at him.
Yeah.
Didn't.
That's nice of you. That shows improvement of character.
Something to report.
I think I might be a manic depressive. I've noticed some traits like that. I've never gotten diagnosed. I'm like, fuck. Can you just like get that? I thought you were like born with it, but
you catch it?
Yeah, I think I've never been like this before. Like last week, I was a fucking grump, and now I'm good. I think it's probably because I had a rejuvenating weekend.
Yeah, you were away. You saw some old friends. You got out of your parents' house.
Yeah, that helps.
I mean, being your age and being back at your parents' house can be enough to make you depressed.
Yeah, no, that's really what it is. It's just like because basically I'm like, there's like a handful of other people who are still like doing this, but like most of my friends at least have an apartment to themselves. Like, but like, I'm happy to be doing, the creative things I want to. I just wish they had paid off economically so I could live not in this house. I can be in New York City. Doing cool stand-up and stuff.
I've been where you are at older I was just living back at my mom's for 6 months recently, or 9 months. I don't even know how long it was. But it didn't hurt as bad because it was like a temporary decision. But yeah, man, I think you'll get a job, and I think you just gotta fucking be in a certain mind state where you're just like working really hard at every single thing you do, and then shit comes to you.
Once I get a job, man, I'm like, I know I'll be good. I'm like, I can feel it.
Yeah,
I can feel it.
Feel it in the loins.
Oscar, have you screwed up your new job yet by being a weirdo?
No.
Well,
just on day one. Hello.
Hello. I'm Oscar.
I am Oscar, friend of Andrew.
Well, I have something I want to put in there before I forget, but I got Roy Lotz's book.
Ooh, I love the cover.
Right?
Yeah.
Their Solitary Way. It's on Amazon.
All right. I'm going to buy it.
A lot. Do you know who did the illustration for the cover?
That was me. I went into a time machine and did some old paintings. No, I don't know. It doesn't say.
It looks like
something we gotta find out.
It looks like it's a famous painting.
Look, you have to buy it to find out.
I believe it. You want to have this? Can you give us like the first paragraph out of the book to entice our listeners?
Yeah, I like that.
If you haven't listened to Roy Lotz, where he talks all about being an author and whatnot. Now, Oscar's about to give a dramatic reading of the first paragraph of his book, Their Solitary Way.
Their Solitary Way.
Their Solitary Way.
All right. Preface.
Don't read the preface.
Joseph Zorn was born in 1950 to a famed Austrian.
He doesn't know the word.
He doesn't know. That's how you know.
Philologist?
Spell it out.
Philologist?
Philologist.
Philologist. You don't know what a philologist is?
No,
philologist. Is that falafels?
No, it means they
somebody who understands like
they study guys named Phil who type in laugh out loud in text messages.
Philologist.
I'm pretty sure it's somebody who's like just studies like literary stuff.
It's like a philanthropist, but more funny.
It's like someone who like reads into old like scriptures and stuff, and like, what does this all mean?
Oh.
All right.
Joseph Zorn was born. Joseph Zorn was born in 1950 to a famed Austrian philologist, Ludwig Zorn. After a highly unusual and arguable traumatic childhood, he graduated with top honors from Riverbend University in 1972.
Skip to the middle. Skip to the middle.
Yeah,
and read
yeah. Go to the last page.
All right. Even now, through the din of time and the noise of age, I can still hear the voice of our cook calling us to dinner.
I like
The
that.
word dinner would travel through the trees of our estate, where we could be found on any summer evening.
Wait, is this in
That's,
first?
that's
is
all.
this
That's all
first
I'm doing
or-
because I'm butchering it.
Yeah, clearly.
That was good. So that was apt. That was an apt passage for tonight's podcast.
Yeah.
Starts
we're
with dinner time.
Talking about food in just a second with our guest.
Sean, what makes a good meal to you?
The people you share it with.
The peephole you look through and while you eat.
Yeah. No, I mean it's like anything. It depends, I guess, what you're in the mood for. You in for something sweet? Are you in for something savory? Are you in for something delectable? Something with that umami flavor?
Ooh, mommy.
Umami.
Yeah, that's
Good flavors.
That's a Puerto Rican term. Umami. Oscar, how about you? What makes a good meal for you?
I like to say balance, you know. So you want to have you want to taste the spectrum, you know. You want to have something that tells a story. You want to have something that, you know, could crunch in a figurative sense and maybe in a literal sense. Something that's smooth, but, you know, sometimes it's a little rough. Something that brings you somewhere, you know what I mean? You have any idea what I'm talking about?
Brings you somewhere? Like where?
Are there any foods that make you like think of your childhood?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say that because Dave Chang, what he would always say on his podcast was like a really good novel food is completely different, but also somehow still makes you think of something you enjoyed as a kid.
I agree.
Yeah, like I don't know what a good example of that.
Get David Chang to come on the show.
Yeah, sure, maybe.
Dear Mr. Chang.
Dear Mr. Chang. I mean, it's possible. And I have his like assistant's number and his producer's number and all that.
Yeah, just give those things to Oscar and have him write.
Drop.
Yeah, name drop. But no one asked me what I think makes a good meal.
No.
I mean, we got the important people's opinions, but
listen, this is what I think. I think something where you can taste the freshness and the essential flavor of the ingredients. I love that. God damn it. I was gonna finish my sentence even though Tom joined the room and then he left the room. He just left. How you doing, Tom?
What's up, guys?
how you doing?
Hey.
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to our podcast.
Way too dark and ominous in this light.
You're pretty dark.
You do look like you're in witness protection. Okay.
That's much better.
That's not
Yeah,
much.
there you go.
There we go.
What's
Welcome.
up, boys?
Not too much. We were just before you got in. We were actually talking about what makes a good meal to you. Like I posit the question to you. What do you look for in a meal?
God, that's an interesting question because there's a time and a place for all food for me. Bad food still takes precedence sometimes. I mean, every now and again, you want that, you know, a combo number 4 from Wendy's with spicy chicken, no mayonnaise.
Ooh, I love Wendy's.
Come on, what's better than that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but it's all about expectation of value. When you go out and get something to eat at any point, what am I paying versus what am I getting?
Right.
So our job in the restaurant industry is to always exceed that perception of value. So when you walk out, I don't care if it's a dirty water hot dog or a $1,500 steak dinner. When I leave, what I pay has to match the experience that I had in the restaurant, if not exceed that.
Right. And it doesn't always have to be food, right? It can be ambiance. It can be exclusivity. It can be a bunch of things, right?
Well, listen, food is so, we are so deep in food. And I say that with, you know, all the respect in the world. That wasn't meant to be dirty by any stretch of the imagination. You know, we eat food not only to satiate ourselves, but we eat food to, you know, celebrate occasions and have these familial events that we're working with. Food is just so important to us as a culture. So Yeah, man. Like, there's all sorts of different reasons people eat. And I was talking to a couple of restaurant buddies of mine this past week, and with the technology that's coming out and all the rest of it, it's like, how much more dining will there actually be? Will we get to a point where there's a supplemental pill that you take every day that just takes dining away from the general public? For me, I could never get into that. There's too many memories. There's too many things attached to food that I'll never be able to get away from.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost akin to saying like we're going to download our consciousness into a machine and not have emotions anymore. It's that same kind of thinking.
To a certain degree, yeah. I mean, listen, is there a chemical response that happens when you eat something that you have this tied in memory to? Sure. I mean, that's part of what makes food so romantic and beautiful. But at the same time, food is what sustains us. We wake up every day and we need to, bring in X amount of calories to, then continue our day. So it's not something that we can just give up on completely at this point. But, is there a balance? I don't know. For me, there is. I need to enjoy both ends of it.
Yeah, and I also feel like food, being that like we're a more and more urbanized population in the world, more and more
Sure.
people living in cities. It's one of the few things that still tie you to nature. It's one of the few things that you make you think about the earth and the weather and as forces that are beyond your control, but still worthy of being not prayed, but like appreciated.
Sure. I mean, not for nothing. I am very fortunate that I get to work as a commercial fisherman in my off time. And there's a lot of value to seeing where that food is coming from.
Oh shit! I didn't know you fished like that.
Oh yeah.
I'm spelling the comeback episode.
Listen, Andrew, you're allowed on the boat. The other two, I'm not so sure.
Sean was the one who made the best pasta by far, though.
I know.
You did,
Despite my best efforts.
dude. And I appreciate you, but you might just be ballast on the boat.
No, that's fair. I'm not. I'm really more of a land-based guy than a seaman. I'm meant to stay here. I'll like watch you guys from the shore while I drink a margarita.
I'm raising a hand. Did you just call yourself a seaman?
Yeah, we can move past it. Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
I prefer single spermatozoa. That's what
Listen, however you want to define yourself, that's fine.
Yeah.
But Chef Tom, so how did you get into fishing? Like, is that a family thing? What is that?
Yeah, I've been fishing my entire life. It's not only is it for me part of my culture and what I do, but it's something that's so super sustainable to kind of get into, and it's definitely something that's been fading among the younger population, and I always get great joy if I go out fishing and I see a father and a son or father and a daughter, and they're teaching them how to be out there and how to fish. And then it's not necessarily the fishing, but the next steps that people take. Okay, so we've caught this fish. Now, what are we doing with it? What is your heritage bringing to what this whole thing is? Are you roasting your porgy whole? Are you filleting your sea bass, turning into fish and chips? Are you taking your striped bass and doing whatever the hell you're going to do with it? So how does your culture impact that industry? And that's a very fun thing.
I want some sea bass fish and chips. I've never had such like bougie fish and chips before. That sounds great.
Sounds good.
Dude, sea bass, for me, sea bass and blackfish are my number one, number two fish on Long Island. Striped bass falls in at a solid number three. But yeah, if I could live my life eating sea bass fish and chips, I'd be a happy camper.
My dad used to take me fishing, and I don't really like to say he taught me fishing. He taught me how to not catch anything. That's what he taught me.
Well, that's a big part of fishing too, man.
Yeah, that's true. So, Tom, what are you fish? You said you fish commercially. So, are you exporting the fish out of state? Are you using it for restaurants locally? Where's that fish going?
So, very fortunately for me, I got hooked up with a buddy of mine who holds a couple commercial fish licenses, and I have the good fortune to be able to go out and fish with him and put fish back into the market. It's a blast. It's something that in my wildest dreams, I never could have imagined that I'd be sitting here going, okay, well, I'm a executive chef, and I also get to catch fish in my part-time and send that back into the market and let it kind of do its thing. So I'm a very, very lucky guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like, there's just certain skills that, I mean, I don't know if it's a gendered thing, but I just feel like touched me in a deep place, like making a table, like cooking, but also like farming or like making your own food supply, like that. Those things are so vital to like our ancestral DNA that you can't do it and not feel a certain thing that you maybe have never felt before.
I'll tell you right now, that was my pandemic project this year, was to get into farming. I've never done it at all. And, this year, I mean, food service really took it hard. And it gave me the opportunity to have the time to sit back and go, okay, I'd really like to try this. So I tilled my own garden space this year. I planted probably 10 different varietals of food, and it was a lot of fun, and it was really rewarding to sit back and go, okay, well, this is the food that I made. And to be able to take that food then and listen, fresh cucumbers are fantastic. Tomatoes are beautiful in season, but then to take those things and pickle the cucumbers, can the tomatoes. I have jarred up eggplants and peppers and hot sauces. It's just been a really, really rewarding experience.
What do you do with like a preserved eggplant?
To be honest, I pickled them in a little bit of curry. And they've just been this kind of like fun little accoutrement to go along with any kind of charcuterie board, or just this little pungent bit of flavor to go with anything that just needs that little pop of color and a little bit of love. That's all. So
they still have their skin on.
Yeah. I did Japanese eggplant for this. So they're little tiny varietals. They're purple and white. So they kept the skin on them, took them, pickled them. They've turned out great.
When I was like 18 years old, I spent a month and a half on a Japanese farm in Kyushu, southern Japan, just because I needed somewhere to mail my debit card that I lost. And man, that gave me appreciation for like how hard labor is on a farm, like, because they didn't really use any mechanized stuff. They like weeded by hand and everything, picked by hand and everything on a pretty big scale, and it was backbreaking labor. And the grandma, who was like 77 years old, was just like doing laps around me.
I'll tell you, I'm very lucky. I live on about a half-acre of land. I'm on Long Island, so listen, the property taxes here are fucking crazy. Can I say fuck on the podcast?
Yeah.
Perfect, awesome. So it's crazy, but I have this spare plot that's just under a quarter of an acre. So this year I'm gonna actually take and till that whole part of the land and put in a communal garden for my neighborhood, where it's something that, hey guys, listen, I'm going to grow all this shit. I'm going to put a little box outside, and if you guys can come and support me for seed money, water, whatever it's going to be, but I just want to be able to give back to my community a little bit.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, food is community when it comes down to it. And I think America would be such a more community oriented place if like there were community gardens everywhere,
I don't disagree with that. Me and my neighbor, we trade produce back and forth, and this whole year we traded produce back and forth. I had extra hot peppers, he had extra that basil, I had extra zucchini, he had extra chilies. I mean, we just back and forth. Whatever was in season, we would give to each other, and there's something very powerful about that.
Yeah, it's beautiful because you're sharing an experience even when you're not together. You're like, oh, this is where this came from. I'm thinking of this guy. Oh, he's eating this too. Like, we know what this tastes like.
Well, that's the power of food, right? I mean, all of us have these little subliminal, things that go on in our mind about how our food experiences have always gone. I mean, listen, the big problem that I have at That Meetball Place is everyone on Long Island thinks that their grandmother's meatball recipe is the best of all time. I got it. Like, cool, awesome. That's all just tucked into their DNA.
Yeah.
And it's hard to try, it's really hard to try to compete with that. And you shouldn't, because I can never match the experience that you had at your grandmother's house, having those meatballs for the first time. The way that you felt, the way that the salinity on your tongue, the way that all of these things came together, the dopamine reactions within your brain. I can't match that in a restaurant setting. And if I'm asked to do so against a memory, I'll fail every time.
Right.
So that's something for me that's very, very important in food is, hey guys, listen, I'm coming out here. I'm not trying to compete with what was going on at grandma's house. I just want to give you a great experience. And how can we do that?
Right. And you're probably, because you have a lot of different types of meatballs that grandma's not cooking, right?
My grandmother never made a buffalo chicken meatball. A lamb tzatziki meatball. Oh my God. We just got done with the corned beef and cabbage meatballs.
Nice.
It's amazing. People love corned beef and cabbage for like 9 days. And they're like, no, I'm fucking done with it. We're done with St. Patrick's Day. Rip the flags down. Corned beef and cabbage is dead.
It's heavy.
Yeah, I got sick of corned beef and cabbage quick. Did you know, Chef Tom, that if you order like delivery from Amazon Prime, that if you tell them like, you gave me too much meat in the corned beef and cabbage, you get it for free?
It's fucked up, but it makes sense.
Because I mean, it's Jeff Bezos, man. I don't feel bad at all.
Well, I wonder where that money comes out on the back end.
Yeah, I mean, it can't go against the managers of Whole Foods. Maybe it can, I guess.
I was going to say that's what we don't know is how deep all that stuff goes.
How much you heard in the little guy?
Yeah,
it's
Just
possible.
do it.
Right.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Well, and you and I know about the little guy, right?
Yeah. We've had a lifetime of being little guys.
Yeah.
Just tiny little boys trying our best.
There's actually there's an athlete inside this body.
We're making shirts for us that say former top athletes as part of Knowledge Daddies brand. That's what I want. Look at this. Bomber football. I used to exercise. That, but like just going back to food, that was like one of the best parts was the Friday nights before games. So we had a big, gigantic team meal. It was usually just some sort of pasta and high in carbs and stuff to keep us prepped. But it was just like it was that communal team experience of like, in high school it was somebody's mom making the food, and then when we got to college, I mean, it was like still like the chefs at the school, but like it was just like that extra level of bonding. I said jokingly before we started, like we asked like, what's the best part of food? I'm like, it's the people you share it with. I think that adds a whole other layer. Because I mean, we've all been animals and just eaten some McDonald's in the car before, but it's not as good as a sit-down meal.
Right. That speaks to the whole experience of food and eating. And I'm not saying dining because we all have to eat every day, right? It's not just going out to eat and doing what you're doing on that end. We all have to go and have these machinations that we do to get ourselves fed every day. And a lot of times, all of those things play back to what we did with our family as we were kids. And there's a lot of I don't want to get into the Freudian aspects of food and family.
Tits. Just say it, tits.
What are you talking about me, or are you talking about my mother? Look, just talk to me.
I'm just saying tits, man.
And I appreciate that about you.
This guy eats lead.
I watched a TikTok video today that's some guy was like, only 20% of the world's cultures think tits are erotic in any sense of the word, and they actually look down on us for thinking they're sexual.
Well, I don't appreciate that guy because I think my tits are phenomenal. And if I'm being rated on the daily on my tits, I think I should be okay.
Nice.
It's like my tits, my fried chicken, and my mac and cheese. Pants there.
Nice. So Chef Tom, I actually wanted to know, like, how did you get into being a professional chef? Like, what was that process like?
That's an interesting question. So I was 17 years old. I was working at a local mom and pop Italian joint, and I was a busser, runner, sometimes server, whatever it may be. And one night I got in a verbal altercation, which turned into a physical altercation with one of the Ecuadorian prep cooks. And I looked at my boss and I said, fuck that guy. I'll cook better than him every day of the week. Well, to my surprise, my boss fired him. And the next day I was on as the prep cook and started to cook on the cold line. So that was my introduction into cooking. But let me back up a little bit because that whole thing is crazy. But my father, who was a school psychologist, actually did clam bakes and barbecues to supplement his income going through, working in schools as a younger man. But I remember very vividly picking the beards off of mussels and scooping pounds of steamers into waiting dishes with drawn butter and paprika and slashing lobsters in half. That my essence was always in food.
God damn. I want to go to a clam bake so bad, but no one invites Jews.
I don't think that's the reason why you're not invited. I think it's because you say stuff like that is why you're not invited.
Maybe. I'm trying to get Chef Tom to invite me, but it's not working.
Let's change subjects. So let's talk about, I think, a little like just pandemic in the restaurant industry as well. We've been kind of getting dancing around a little bit. It's like we're talking about how it's kind of destroying that dine-in thing. Like I heard Jeff, what's his name, Chef Chang on the podcast some podcast a while ago, talking about just how the demand for delivery is just expedited so much. Like restaurants are getting more creative, trying to, I mean, like Italian food's always carried well for whatever reason delivery, but now other like they have to like really make that push, like deliver still restaurant quality food while like the 30 minutes it takes to get someone's house.
Well, and that's a really, really important question too, because as we deal with carry out and the third party apps being able to take over most of the business that we're doing, it really comes down to what travels well, what doesn't travel well. I mean, you take anything that was, for me, steamed items, saute items, they can travel to a certain degree. Anything that's put in a deep fryer, you really can't travel with. It doesn't travel well at all. So it's put us in a difficult spot. But, with the pandemic kind of waning a little bit, or it seems to be waning a little bit, which is really, really important for us. We think we're getting back to the point where people are going to be coming out and they're going to be coming out in hordes. I mean, I can tell you on the day-to-day, I take a lot of phone calls of people who are recently vaccinated, who are looking to get out for the first time. So I'm hoping that it's like Sodom and Gomorrah. We open up and just people come pouring in through the doors, and we get back to, we're not going to get back to what we were 100% right away, but it should be coming.
Yeah.
And now with the influx of people that are dining in, it actually gave us opportunity to sit there. And I know for Farmingdale and for Patchogue Meatball Places, we run 2 separate ghost restaurants out of each kitchen. We do a barbecue concept out of Farmingdale, and we do an empanada concept out of Patchogue. And with the third-party apps, it's been very easy to promote those ideologies and hopefully get some new customers in and eating the food.
That's awesome. I hope that happens, because your food is so good at That Meatball Place. I mean, we went there once. We got to try one meatball, but that meatball was so goddamn good, and I can only
that was amazing.
Imagine the rest of the menu is just as good.
Well, we're very fortunate too. You guys had the ability to eat down in that private room.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a chef's tasting down there. It's a 25-course chef tasting.
Wow.
And it's just, for me, those 14 seats are just a blast to work with. I get to, actually cook for people, and there's very little rules or function. It's all about whimsy and whatever we can put out that day. So that's a chef's dream, to be able to just cook your food and cook the things you want to cook.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I mean, I thought about, because I've heard other chefs talk about that idea of like, making a lot of money per head, and so you can just cook what you want and like have an intimate experience and not feel like you're just like you're basically a human factory. And I kind of tried to think, what would, because I do stand-up comedy, what would that look like for stand-up comedy? Like, what would such a not manicured, but like personalized niche show be like? If you're like imagine Dave Chappelle doing a 50-seat show.
Sure.
What would that look like? And how would he take what chefs are doing and apply that to comedy?
Well, it gives you a lot more. Listen, at the end of the day, you still need to give the customer what they want, and you need to take care of the customer. But it gives you the ability to sit there and go, okay, I'm going to try some things. And if they work, great. And if they don't, there's something else coming right behind it that we can sit there and go, okay, whether it's the joke or the dish, it worked, it didn't work. Well, fine, sit back, relax, because there's something coming right on top of this that we think is going to be just as good. And that's something I say to my guests all the time. I'm like, guys, if you don't like a course, push it away. There's someone else coming on the back end of it.
Yeah. Which brings me to my next question. Like, who are some of the chefs that have inspired that, for you, that type of tasting menu, or just chefs in general that you look up to?
There's a bunch. I mean, listen, I always owe a debt of gratitude to my father for, what he brought to my culinary career. He would drive me crazy from time to time because we worked together for a period of time. But his love of food is fanatical. He's that traditional. My father looks like Joey Buttafuoco. I mean, he is that Italian guy.
Sean doesn't know who that is because he's too young.
I have an idea. Is it the guy in The Thing?
Hey, you learned from Vincent Pastore to, lie.
It's called acting, Chef Tom.
Right. I know nothing about that. I wasn't on the episode.
Yeah.
Nothing. So my father was a super he still is an influential person in my life in terms of my food career. It's fun to go back to old family recipes and make that for people and make it the right way and say, hey, listen, this is something that I grew up with. Enjoy it. I make a very simple. My family had a very simple dish of spaghetti, fried squash, olive oil, and grape cheese. And it's so funny. I was watching on TV Stanley Tucci is doing this new TV show about food in Italy, and he made that same dish. And I'm like, holy shit, my family's been making this for years. But it's just this lovely, lovely combination of great flavors.
Where's your family from in Italy?
There's some from Naples. There's some from Sicily, so they don't get along much.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, they're that's all second and third generation. I mean, my family's been here for years.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, man, I've been very fortunate to have some great food mentors in my life. Mike Maroney from Maroney Cuisine in Northport was so influential to me, and so important in how I learned to cook and how much care someone else could put into someone that they didn't know all that well. And Mike always took care of me. And I will, to this day, Mike tragically passed away a couple of years ago. I owe a lot of my culinary ability and my culinary thought process to Mike.
Yeah, there's something I won't say saint-like, because there's a lot of cooks who are, they're a rough lot historically.
Sure, yeah.
But also historically in like Zen tradition and Zen temples, the chef who cooked for all the monks is often considered at least, if not more enlightened than the master, because they're actually applying that. They're actually applying compassion. They're not just talking about it or thinking about it. They're on a day-to-day level doing something for people.
Well, I mean, that's deep as fuck. But I don't disagree with it. For me, and again, I had multiple mentors. Mike Maroney, my father, Irv Brower, Tom Schrodel to a certain degree. There was all these people that I worked with who were supportive in different ways, and I had to take from each one of them what they would give. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that anyone taught me about food service is, listen, you need to care about that individual customer first. Like, once you get to the point where at this 35,000 foot view and you're looking down going, okay, I'm making these big decisions on 400 people a night, 800 people a night, 1,200 people a night, whatever it's going to be, it gets very easy to be jaded about the single customer that you're having a conversation with. Okay, so every person, when they walk into a restaurant, they need to be your priority every time. And it's hard because we get lost in the minutia of it, right? I always sit there and go, okay, out of the general population, let's call it based on 100 people, 1% of that population is going to be batshit crazy. Not the regular crazy, not the medicated crazy, just batshit crazy.
Yeah.
And when you're dealing in a restaurant that you're dealing with 4, 8, 1,200 people, okay, well, now that's 4, 8, 12 people that are batshit crazy that we have to deal with on any given night. You can't worry about that person. And that person will worm their way into your brain and ruin your night.
Well, it's like doing stand-up where you see the one person who's not laughing and you focus on them. And that's like a horrible thing that a lot of comedians, myself included, do. And they were just like, why can't I please that person instead of noticing everyone else who's enjoying themselves?
What's it like when somebody like you made something right and they're like, can I speak to the manager? Just like that.
Well, and that, dude, that happens all the time. And a big part for me is to sit there and, I truly believe in going to the customer and be like, hey, listen, what's going on? And there's something that's going on in their mind. I'm not sure what it is, but I need to sit there and believe that customer has a problem. And I need to listen to them for a period of time. Okay. And I do a lot of front of house managing, and I'm happy to go out and talk to guests too. And hey, guys, what's going on? Are you happy? You're not happy? That's fine. How can we fix it? And one of the big principles that I always buy into is no matter what it is, fall on your sword and just apologize to the customer. Hey, listen, you're not happy. I don't know why you're not happy right now, but you're not happy. And that's important to me. Okay. How can we fix whatever's going on with you and move forward? Because listen, I want you to like the food. I want you to like whatever restaurant that I'm working at. I want us to move forward and have a good time.
Yeah, but isn't there a part of you who just wants to go, fuck you, get out of my restaurant?
So at this point in my career, when I was a younger chef, yes, 100%. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that all people are going through different shit, different times, right?
Yeah.
And they're probably not bitching about you. They're bitching about something else that's going on in their life.
Absolutely.
So back off, let them tell you what they need. And move forward from there, because I can't get in the business of telling people how to be happy. That's not my job.
Right.
My job is to put out that food for that 99 people out of 100. That's going to be great every time. Can I deal with the one person? Yeah, 100%. That's part of how I live in my industry.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'm still drawing analogies to comedy because it's like when you have a heckler, a person who's drunk or whatever, they want to be the center of attention. They don't think you're as funny as they are, whatever. You do have to give them the rope to hang themselves. You do have to extend them every courtesy. And then once the rest of the audience sees that they're the asshole, then you can be like, hey, go fuck yourself. Get out of my
But that's the thing. You guys have that ability to sit there and hang them in front of other people. We don't. Because every table is a table unto itself. Now, I see it all the time where there's a problem customer who the rest of the table knows they're a problem. They'll take care of that problem to a certain extent. But it's never something where we can do it. We have to let somebody else do that.
Right. Unless they're causing such a hubbub that they're disturbing other customers, obviously.
Then you can just poison their food.
I will never admit to that online.
Already stuff we have to cut out of this. So
yeah. Oscar had a question for you.
I guess I did.
Because he just hasn't said a goddamn thing.
Well, yeah, I worked in the food industry a little bit, so I'm relating to this idea of dealing with customers that are unhappy. Of course, I worked in the capacity of delivering food, so it wasn't as much, cooking. But what was it like? I mean, the work ethic is so intense, and I imagine as you live, like you get a rush from like just all the like business and like all the things you have to do, and that helps propel you throughout your day. Because I see like these cooks who are able to cook, wash dishes, and go out and serve, like pretty much like run the place all by themselves sometimes. And it's just like you must like be able to like, what makes someone able to do that? Is there like a rush, sort of adrenaline rush? That
was the most rambling ass question I've ever heard in my life.
Essentially, I'm asking, is there a lot of cocaine? Is there a lot of cocaine?
You ever see the Chris Farley skit when he interviews people on SNL that are really famous?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
That was awesome.
I have to look that up.
It's like he's interviewing whatever, like Christopher Nolan, and he's like, you know, in Batman where Joker did this and then Batman did this and then everything blew up. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was kind of my question. Andrew kind of put me on the spot there, so
Dude, that's fine. That's fine. For me at 38 years old, no, there's not a lot of cocaine in my life at this point. There's an inherent rush to the crazed capacity of whether it's, and I'm very fortunate I got to do both. I was a bartender for a lot of years. I was executive chef for a number of years. There's an inherent rush that happens when things are going right. And it's a battle somewhere between your ADHD and your OCD, where you're completing tasks very quickly and you're completing them in an efficient manner. So yeah, I still find that very, very attractive. A lot of times I have to pull myself back from those situations because I have staff that is doing that. I can't step on their toes, and they need to be able to do it by themselves without me being involved in it. But I can't tell you how many times I just want to hop either on the hotline, expo line, cold line, bar. It doesn't matter. I want to be a part of all that energy and adrenaline that's being pushed through a kitchen. And I think that's something that's very, and rightfully so, romanticized in the industry. We have this war man mentality where we sit there and go, okay, we're pushing through this and it's hard and it sucks and we're going to do this, but it's attractive. We don't not like what we're doing.
So, but you're the head chef, right? Or you're the executive chef. What is your title exactly?
My title is executive chef of That Meetball Place property. So right now I have 2 restaurants, 2 ghost kitchens, and a VIP room that I run.
Yeah, so you're basically General MacArthur. You're running you can't go to the front lines. You can't put yourself out in front of the troops. You gotta run. I mean, you do have to see that if Hirohito's on the front line, you got to come out there and meet him with a samurai sword. But
Yeah, but I disagree with that to a certain extent. Like, I'm the guy who I want to be washing dishes next to the dishwasher. Right. I'm the guy who, and for lack of better terms, I had someone shit on a seat in Patchogue last week, and I'm not letting my front of house manager, who's a woman, go ahead and clean the shit off the seat. This is my job.
Wait, what happened?
Yeah,
dude, a whole different world. But what I'm saying is, my job.
I want to know that story in so much detail.
I wish I had more detail to give you on it. But my job is to be support for the rest of the staff.
Yeah.
People look at that business pyramid, right? And it's like, oh my God. So we have the bosses, senior management, junior management, and then everyone else underneath running it, right? That's not the way the pyramid works. The pyramid is flipped upside down. Ownership supports senior management. Senior management supports junior management. Junior management supports the staff. And however it can bleed down, we're the ones that are held accountable at the end of the day for taking care of the well-being of the restaurant. Okay, so my job. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you're more like ancient Rome style general. Where you're actually leading everything on the front lines, and you're the Caesar a little bit too.
Well, I do like Caesar salads, although I haven't had a salad in a while.
It's out.
Yeah.
I appreciate that from you, bud.
I made such a good salad today. Do you ever cook with plum vinegar?
I fucking love plum vinegar.
Me too. That's my shit, man. As a marinade, but also as like a salad dressing. Oh, it's the best.
So now, are you talking about a balsamic plum? So something that's sat in cask and...
No, I'm talking about ume plum, like Japanese plum vinegar. Like pickled plums.
Yeah, no, I love that shit.
Yeah, it's the best.
I have a question.
Puttanesca May's got a good one this time.
It's a good one.
Okay.
Putanesca sauce. I've been like, I tried it once and I loved it out of a jar, and I think I want to go for like trying to make some Putanesca sauce. Do you have any suggestions when it comes to that?
Did we talk about this when you guys were there?
I don't think we did.
The story of Putanesca?
Yeah,
it's a whore.
We did. It was not
correct. Correct. Yeah, it's the sauce of the women of the night. And forgive me, I think it was Sicily. It might have been Florence. But what would happen is they make this very pungent sauce with a lot of vinegar, sugar, tomato, and that they would hang that sauce in their windowsill, and that would let the sailors coming in know that they were willing to take care of whatever problems they had. It might have also covered up some other smells.
Yeah.
When you said they hang it in their window, I imagined it in one of their stockings, but that's not exactly.
No. I meant more like pot of sauce on the windowsill.
Yeah.
But you had this, beautiful caper and olive and roasted tomato and ton of vinegar, ton of sugar. And I still make Putanesca to this day. I mean, for the VIP room at Farmingdale, I was doing this beautiful local monkfish Putanesca with golden raisins and capers. It was just delightful.
I feel like raisins work perfectly. I've never had raisins in such a pungent sauce, but that sounds amazing.
Well, think about it. I mean, listen, you're looking to balance certain things, right? Sweet with salty, vinegar with fat. And if you can get all those things kind of working together, that's the essence of making great food.
Yeah, and you got capers. I didn't even know capers would go in Putanesca sauce.
Traditionally, olives, as it kind of Americanized itself, people were starting to use capers because they kind of mimic that salty flavor. They were brine, and it was something that, it worked colloquially, that we're not. The wonderful part about food is it changes every step that it takes.
Yeah.
A big story for me is always people think that corned beef is Irish. Corned beef isn't Irish at all. Irish used to buy the corned beef from the Jewish delicatessens in Brooklyn and Lower Manhattan because they were trying to buy ham and the Jewish vendors didn't buy pork. So they saw this as the cheapest dish that they could buy and put it out for their families around this time in March.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Okay, Chef Tom, we're about to wrap up. I wanted to ask you one last question. Besides, what do you have to plug? But this is the last fun question.
Okay.
I wanted to know, like, if you've tasted anything recently that has kind of like surprised you, that's kind of like you weren't expecting in a good way.
Wow, that's such an interesting question. I mean, there's always little surprises that you find out there in food. I hate to plug a big corporation, but I was in Disney World about a month ago, and I'm in this Hollywood studios, and I'm in this back lot. My girlfriend and her friends are having fun, and I got this stupid egg sandwich and not thinking too much about it. I'm like, my God, I'm going to get this and enjoy it. It's going to be what it is. And, it's $13.95 for eggs. And I'm okay because I'm a little bit hungover and we're going to make this happen.
Right.
Well, been there.
You've been there more than I have. So, long story short, in this pita with this beautiful Chipotle cheese sauce, wrapped sausage, a little bit of scrambled eggs, I'm sitting there going, my God, this is fucking delightful for what I need right now in my life. And I think that's an important lesson to people in food because there's a lot of people out there who are just looking for the best. But there is no defining the best. It's the best at that time and the best in that space. Can I drop a quick story? We have time?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Good time.
So Hurricane Sandy was 2012, I believe, right? And I lost power at my house. I lost power at the deli that I owned at the time. And I was out of power for, I think, 5 or 6 days. And I went to a local restaurant that I love the guys there, but I don't frequent it as much as I do. But I knew at the time they had power and I was fucking starving. I was working 14-hour days and all I wanted was just lights, a TV, and something to eat. And I had, at that meal, a dozen beautiful oysters, linguine white clam sauce, and New York style Italian cheesecake. And that will always be to me this beautiful meal that I had. I've had better oysters. I've had better linguine white clam sauce. I've had better cheesecake. But all of the events coming together were so perfect that is one of the greatest meals of my life.
Yeah. I mean, how could it not be? You're coming off this big disaster where even the slightest bit of luxury just feels like royalty, I
think that's the extent of food and food services, that we have to sit there and go, okay, what's going on? What are the culmination of events that goes into dining? And how do we be better at all of that? And if we can roll that down the road, kick that can down the road, there's a hope for dining in the future.
Yeah, I agree. On that note, I mean, this was a great episode. I just want to know, like, what are you want people to check out? You know, obviously That Meatball Place in Farmingdale. What else?
I mean, listen, That Meatball Place Farmingdale, That Meatball Place Patchogue, Gata Empanada, which is our ghost kitchen out in Patchogue, Portly Porker, which is our ghost kitchen in Farmingdale. And the VIP room is a really special experience to me that if anyone wants to come check it out, it's a blast. It's a blast. It really is. And to me, it's something that I give back to someone who taught me a lot about food. And it always makes me happy to put together a VIP dinner because it reminds me of Mike Maroney and what he did for me.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I want to go.
Yeah, I want to go too. I'm down.
Come.
Yeah. All right. So you heard that first. If you're anywhere near Long Island, go now to Chef Tom's, any of Chef Tom's establishments, and especially to the VIP room for a 25-course tasting menu. That sounds amazing. Treat yourself.
Definitely.
All right. Well, Chef Tom, I mean, thank you so much, man. And
It's fun.
I can't wait till your episode comes out.
I'll be soon.
Next
I'll
week,
be soon.
What's the date of that? Does anybody know?
whatever next
It's-
Thursday is.
Well, that doesn't help anyone.
It's
All right, I'll
April
look it
1st,
up.
April Fool's Day, because we're clowns.
April Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day. There you go.
April Gabagool's Day.
Boys, thank you very much. Thank you for everything you did. I'm happy you know how to make pasta now. It's
Me too.
All right.
Thanks to you, Chef.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
all right.
Have a good night.
And Andrew cut off the podcast where we could do our final plugs for ourselves. You can follow me at BigBear63 on Instagram, Andrew at ndrewsteiner on Instagram, Oscar at desiderio.oscar on Instagram. Follow us at knowledge.daddies on all social media platforms. Other than that, guys, we'll see you next week.